Hello and welcome to today's video. And today there's a lot of things to talk about, and we'll jump right into it. So there's a bunch of F1 announcements. There's pretty much like three that were sort of relatively close to each other, and we're going to jump into that, talk about all three of them. So I got the F1 website here pulled up so to get the information on it for you guys. So the first one is filling the not vacant. Okay, the open spot on the calendar. Which will most likely be Portugal. That was, a good race. Portimao was a very exciting track. There was so much to it, like just the way that track laid out, up the hills, down hills. Like there's so much to it that was so unique. You don't really see a lot of the tracks now. They're kind of flat and boring. So something like that was really cool. That was a wild start there. Carlos Sainz taking the leading for a few laps before obviously Lewis Hamilton came in and won, taking his record at the time, 92 wins. Now I believe he's up to 95, but the record for wins was broken there, which is really cool. And I really like the track, and I'm excited. Of course, there's been rumors that was going to be there. So May 2nd is the preferred option. It's not 100% confirmed, but Formula One intends to fill that spot with it. And it's been sort of, that's the preferred option to fill that gap. So that's really, really awesome. I'm super excited about that. Yeah. So that's really, really cool. So those have to get a contract with the promoters of it, but it should be awesome. And again, that was one of the tracks that they put on the calendar last year. It was not intended to be there, but when there was a bunch of canceled races due to the pandemic, they threw together what they could, and we got a bunch of tracks that weren't intended to be on it. Portimao being on it turned to be a good choice. The next one is there's broad support from F1 teams for sprint races. Now, there's obviously been talks in the past year about doing, your kind of reverse grid to the race. You start, whoever qualifies first has to start 20th, that kind of thing. But a lot of teams didn't like it. Of course, if you're Mercedes or Red Bull, you're going to probably be in the front. Do you really want to start as one of the last teams? Like, I don't think you want to do that. So, this is right here, Formula One, the FIA and the championships, 10 teams that offered broad support to proposals to introduce a new qualifying format in the form of Saturday sprint races as selected Grand Prix this season. So, that means that some races we could see essentially 2 races in a weekend. Now, I don't know. It says teams recognize the importance of engaging fans in a new and innovative way, ensure a more exciting weekend. Qualifying format at some races, and they want to have a final decision before the start of the 2021 championship. So pretty much about a month and a half. They take the idea of the reverse grids out, but they want to do something like that because they don't want to lose that traditional like racing. You don't necessarily want to throw that out. Like once you start doing that, you definitely go down a bad path. And I don't want to see F1 take similar paths like I've seen some of the NASCAR changes that they made. NASCAR definitely yeeted their entire formats and stuff, and I don't want to see F1 do something like that. So I think a sprint race is a great idea. Seeing how that sort of worked again, comparison to NASCAR, like they do the Daytona duels for the Daytona 500, that's a good thing. Like there's a qualifying race before it. I love seeing that. That's a good thing, and I think that for F1 to see some qualifying races on a weekend, that'd be awesome because qualifying, as much as I watch it, I think there needs to be something a little more engaging to it because it's hard to just say, hey, do you guys want to watch qualifying? Like to a bunch of people. I'll watch it because I love watching, racing and things like that. But if I miss a qualifying, I don't really care. Like most weekends I have watched it, but I'm not like rushing to sit down and watch it. I'm just like, all right, cool, qualifying's on, I'll watch it. But it's definitely something where if you make a race format, people are going to want to watch it more, I feel. And that's a good idea. Good change. Finally, is the engine freeze for 2022 has been agreed, and low-cost sustainable power units for 2025. So there's been unanimous approval at a meeting for the F1 Commission with FIA, Formula One, and teams, power unit manufacturers, all aligned on lower cost, carbon neutral sustainability fueled hybrid units from 2025. So, of course, you're going to keep hybrids, they're not going to get rid of that, but Formula One's in a spot where they kind of have a difficult situation because a lot of car manufacturers are moving towards all electric cars, which I'm definitely torn on personally. I like the technology and I'm very interested in it, but there's something about having just a pure, naturally aspirated engine with all the the noise and the sounds and just putting liquefied dinosaurs in your car is super there's just something about it. And to just plug your car into your house and charge it and then just go, it kind of just makes it a phone. It kind of makes it a computer. It kind of just takes away from that sound, that excitement. Because lots of times I will have my car. A lot of cars you can just, if they're automatic, they will have an option where you can at least shift with paddles on the wheel. So sometimes I just hit it into that mode to at least, shift up. It's not the same, obviously, as using a clutch, but it's what my car has the option to do. So sometimes I just put it into that mode, leave it in second gear because I'm going fast enough, and turn the radio off and just hear the noise of the engine. It's just so fun. So, that's the thing. But getting away from the main point of this is that a lot of car manufacturers are going electric, but Formula One cannot go electric because the FIA's contract with Formula E means that Formula E can be the only electric vehicle class that races under the FIA. So, and that was a 30-year deal set in 2014. So there's still 20, 23, 24 years left on that deal. Formula One has to do something that contains fuel in these cars, which, if they're going to make this new engine in 2025, that still means there has to be 20 years before they could go all electric, which I think a lot of cars are going to be all electric in 20 years from now, or 25 at this point. That's wild. But yeah, so they're going to do this. They're going to have low-cost, carbon-neutral, sustainably fueled hybrid units. I'm not really sure what that necessarily means. Of course, we're going to have to come up with more sustainably fueled vehicles than what they already are. Because, of course, Formula One's incentive to be carbon neutral by 2030, which is kind of cool. And then I think net carbon zero by 2040 or 2050, something. I don't know. Wild things they're saying. But part of this here engine freeze coming forward is because Red Bull kind of needed that with the departure of Honda. Because Honda's we're out after 21. Red Bull is going to make the engine, basically buying Honda's, developments and stuff, and do it in that way. The issue with that is Red Bull needs to set that all up and get all the, the things figured out for that. And it's just, money-wise, it's not something they can necessarily do in a year. So I'm sure by the time that it comes to 25, Red Bull can figure something out to make their own engine. But they want to be able to keep Honda's engine going. So all they really need to do is whatever is developed in this season, that's it. It's frozen for 3 years until 25, so then they can sort of develop their own engine in that time. So it's been going on for a long time. Red Bull said they were unable to take on the Honda project and develop the unit themselves for their works team and AlphaTauri. So again, that's Red Bull can't just jump in and continue that project for another year. It doesn't really make sense because there's going to be a freeze in 23, so instead it's going to freeze in 22 because there's no point in doing that, taking it on for a year just for it to freeze. So bring it forward, whatever Honda's developed this year, whatever Mercedes, Renault, and Ferrari developed, that's it. This year, that's where the engine's at. So, for a few years. They're able to agree on a significant, or says described as significant development for the sport, unity and collaborative spirit. Again, a lot of it does come down to these teams saying, we're going to help Red Bull out. Because if Mercedes is like, nah, we're good, we'll keep it going for another year, they could definitely say that and just yeet Red Bull, basically, and Ferrari could as well. So it's a lot of these teams sort of coming together saying, yes, let's, stop this now and make the sport a little bit, a little more competitive, because you probably would see Red Bull drop off a little bit. So if you do that, you can at least keep the teams where they are, and Red Bull might just say, yeet, we're out of the sport. So good move there. So what else do we have here? In addition, a high-level working group is established, including current and potential power unit manufacturers and fuel suppliers. So again, they're trying to work with people that, they're already established. So you're already working with Mercedes, you're already working with Renault and Ferrari. And I don't know, Red Bull, I guess that they're keeping the engines. I'd assume that Red Bull's going to try to make the engine in 25. That's my assumption, but you never know. Maybe they'll go back to getting another manufacturer to come in. But it's also talking to other ones. Like people said Porsche might come in. You might see that, or another company that might jump in. And again, fuel suppliers, you might see more of those jump in. So it's all talking with those. And again, it's potential power unit manufacturers and suppliers. And then here's the other thing. The definition of the objectives in the next generation of F1 car and power units is the utmost importance to the FIA and Formula 1, and together with teams and power unit manufacturers is a strong alignment in the overall goal, particularly to reduce cost and reach carbon neutrality. And then the key objectives of the 2025 power units are environmental sustainability and social and automotive relevance, a fully sustainable fuel, creating a powerful and emotive power unit, significant cost reduction, and attractiveness to new power unit manufacturers. So, again, start at the first one, environmental sustainability and social and automotive relevance. The thing with that is, again, keeping the cars at a spot where they're going to not pollute as much. Now, of course, having a hybrid engine, they're already not polluting as much. So, just getting to the point where there's less of that in general. And again, social and automotive relevance, that's where it's interesting because, again, sort of what I talked about at the beginning of this segment of the video, a lot of companies are going towards electric vehicles. So what's the incentive for Mercedes to keep doing that? Especially, I come back to Mercedes because they're done developing their gas-powered engine. They're done with that. They're doing electric engines. Like they said, we're done developing that. So what's the point for Mercedes to say, we're going to keep going with this engine? So very interesting on the automotive relevance side. Fully sustainable fuel, that's the next one. Again, let's finding fuel potentially alternatives to just digging in the ground. What can you do as a company? What can these brands that are sponsoring, providing fuel to these teams, Petronas for Mercedes and Shell for Ferrari, Mobil or Esso, whatever the branding is for Red Bull, that's ExxonMobil, that company. They're using the SO branding on the car. What can they do? What can Golf do for McLaren? That type of thing. Those are the ones that I know. They're ones I don't remember all the other teams. Fuels, but like, what can those brands do to make this fuel for these cars that is going to be sustainable? And how can you do that? So they got to figure that out. Creating a powerful and emotive power unit. So again, they want to have some power to it. An emotive, I'm assuming that's something to, probably bring out more of, just instead of hearing because the cars now, they sound good. I don't have a problem with their sound, but when you hear the cars pre-2014, they're wild. Like, the clip that they had of the old Renault from 2005 or 2006 when it was racing at Abu Dhabi, that last, they took it out for a day. I believe Fernando Alonso was driving it. When he was driving that around, that track, you could just hear it everywhere. And they had the interview with Lewis Hamilton. He's just so excited about the sound of the car. You see that in that clip. And that's the thing that you want. You want something more interesting with the power unit. Because now it's just sort of on a little electric noise. It's just it still sounds cool, but it's not nearly as cool as they used to be. I always eat before I make videos. Bad idea. Significant cost reduction. So that's, again, just make the engines in a way that they don't cost nearly as much. And that kind of goes along with attractiveness to new power unit manufacturers. How can you attract, whether it's a new company making a power unit for a team like Honda did for Red Bull, or how can you get a brand new team to jump in? Like a Mercedes or a Ferrari or a Renault. How do you get a team to just come and say, we're making an engine for ourselves to race? Or, again, how do you get another company to jump in and say, Red Bull, do you want our engine? Or, whatever other teams. That's the main team that hasn't had their own engine. How do you get a company to come in and say, Red Bull, here's an engine? Or, you know what? We're going to, as a car company, join F1, make our own engine. It's very interesting. And to see, first of all, they're talking with them, established current and potential power unit manufacturers and fuel suppliers, talking to both companies that are in the sport and companies that could potentially jump in. It's very interesting there. And again, 2025, trying to get new teams, new engines into Formula One, because I think having a larger grid would be better. I think that, get up to 20, 22, 24, cars in the field, get up to 11 or 12 teams. I think that'd be a good spot to be. So that's my opinion on this. And of course, right here at the bottom, it's noted that all regulatory changes are subject to approval from the World Motorsport Council. Just had to throw that in there at the end, but that's the thing. Portugal, most likely on the calendar. Sprint races probably being tried out in place of qualifying a few times this season. And of course, engine freeze for 2022 with low-cost sustainable power units coming in 2025. So with that, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in the next one.